Mendoza over the middle. Oh, he's got it.
And get the ball in the hands of Carnell Tate.
David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
Out into the open. What a move, Lemon.
End zone city, touchdown Ducks. As Caleb Downs dislodges the football. Jeremiah Love, ball head is standing, there he goes. Love off to the races.
You know, people looking at this draft class wondering what it's going to look like. There's a lot of starters to be had deep into this draft.
Mendoza diving toward the end zone. Touchdown. Great catch in traffic by Lemon.
There was pressure from David Bailey. Over the middle to Carnell Tate.
Kenyon Shanique with a hurry.
Caleb Downs picked it clean.
Love's going to get it again straight ahead, and there goes Love.
I'm fired up. It is a really, really good group.
We are within a month of the NFL draft, which means it is another edition of Mock Draft Live. Mike and Bucky Brooks, Lance Zierlein. You know, Buck, last week your mock draft 3.0 was
perfect.
It was on
awesome.
full display. It may or may not have been perfect. Lance was very kind to you last week. I think there was a lot of agreement. I noticed that there's some changes on Lance's 3.0 edition, but it is his mock that's taking center stage.
Oh, I don't adhere to the golden rule, so I don't treat people how I want to be treated. Like, this is going to be absolute fun, tearing this apart.
Yeah. Whoa, Lance, he's coming out of the gates, coming out hot. He's ready for your mock.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. I've already been checking the internet. They seem to love it. So,
well, there is one
kidding.
commonality when it comes to all the mock drafts that are on NFL.com that we will continue to dissect here, and that is at that top spot. Something tells me what the Raiders are going to do is take a quarterback, Lance, that we continue to just love up. And I know last week on the show you were a huge fan of what Fernando Mendoza was going to be able to bring to the table. But once again, not a shocker. Lance going with Mendoza. Why?
Plug and play. I mean, this is a guy who, he takes care of the football. First and foremost, 39 touchdowns, no interceptions for the last 2 years in the red zone. That includes Cal and Indiana. And Cal, it was bumpy from a protection standpoint. And that's something else I love. He's shown an ability to stay tough in the pocket and deliver the rock where he needs to, a great placement. And, and on top of that, he's got great, floor to ceiling mechanics. So his mechanics start ground up. And so he doesn't get to, you're not going to see bad mechanics lead to faulty throws. And that's one of the things I really like about him. But there's a lot more that goes into it than just one guy's mechanics.
Well, look, at the end of the day, this is a well-accomplished quarterback. He's a guy that actually grabbed my Heisman vote, and he certainly won that award. Maybe the most important thing is the fact that he's a winner and won a national championship and really came up with some really difficult runs, gutsy throws throughout the course of the season. But not only is it sort of like a remake, Lance, when it comes to Fernando Mendoza in a Vegas uniform, but the reality is they got a brand new coach as well. So in terms of the fit with Kubiak, who did a nice job with Sam Darnold as the offensive play caller for Seattle, how does that fit work in your mind?
Well, I think it works great. I mean, I watched his dad, Gary Kubiak, here in Houston and got to become very familiar with that offense. And granted, Kyle Shanahan went over and did some things that were similar. Of course, it starts with Mike Shanahan, who Gary Kubiak learned under. But there's a lot of play action involved. There's a lot of establish the run and work off of that. I think it's one of the most quarterback-friendly offenses that you can have. A lot of levels concepts, so it makes it, I think, a little bit easier for a quarterback who can throw with placement and throw with good touch between the levels. I think everything about that offense really plays well into the way Fernando Mendoza likes to quarterback. So I think it's actually an excellent fit, especially from a timing standpoint and an establish the run and work off the run with play action, which he did a lot in Indiana already.
Well, look, H-Town put it down. And because Lance is so familiar with what Kubiak did in Houston with Matt Schaub, I think that is a great way to think about how Fernando Mendoza can operate this system. And Matt Schaub, he became a three-time Pro Bowler with this offense and this scheme. And when I think about some of the things that Kubiak was able to do with Sam Darnold, it's pushing the ball down the field, seeing if we can get the deep ball up and going, seeing if they can take advantage of what the defense is doing because the running game is so successful. If you're able to set Fernando Mendoza up in this vein, yes, this quarterback can have a lot of success #1 overall pick, is going to be counted on to deliver big numbers. This system should afford him plenty of opportunities to do so.
Yeah, Mendoza, and there's some pieces that are around him. I mean, free agency was a good one for Raiders Nation. I mean, the fact that they've really helped themselves out, especially on the offensive line. We already know there's some really good pieces there, especially with Brock Bowers, and Genty, obviously, last time I checked, was also a pretty talented running back. Hopefully he will be able to ball this upcoming season. But Lance, I want to get your take on some other picks here. We pick things up with the 2nd overall pick, and you think the Jets are going to get a little defensive?
Yeah, this is tough. I've been going back and forth, and I went from Bailey back to Reese. And the reason I did that is they have so many picks in this draft. I think Darren Muji, the general manager, has a nice runway to work with to build this roster. So I want the guy with the biggest upside, and I think that's Arvell Reese. Everyone's placing him at the edge position. I think he can also play linebacker. I do think you want to figure out where he wants to go and put him there and help him, dial in at one position.
Well, you name-checked Bailey, and he's not going to have to wait too long, according to you, Lance, going 3 overall to Arizona.
Well, for me, this is an easy one. I know that this could be a potential trade-in spot as well, but you need rush. To me, if you're Arizona, you sit there and you take whoever falls to you at 3, either Bailey or Reese. I don't get too complicated with this. Give me a good rusher, either a guy with great upside, who's a little more unpolished than Bailey, or a guy who's just an absolute demon as a pocket punisher in David Bailey. So, yeah, I thought this was an easy one. David Bailey, he's the last one standing. He goes first.
And Lance, the Tennessee Titans got some help and reinforcements on the offensive side in that backfield.
Yeah, Bucky said it best last week. One of the best ways that you can help a quarterback, a lot of times we talk about wide receivers, we talk about offensive line. How about not having them have to throw the ball so much? How about a guy who can hit explosive plays on the ground for you? It's all about explosives for quarterbacks. You want to have them make fewer 13 and 14 play drives. Jeremiah Love can help you out of the backfield. He's a good pocket protector when he is in the backfield, and he can carry the rock and hit explosive plays either inside or outside. So I think one of the best ways to help your quarterback is to ask him to do a little bit less and give him a little bit more help on the ground. That's Jeremiah Love.
That was a hell of an explosive run that we were watching on the field. Meanwhile, Lance couldn't help but notice that Carnell Tate moving up 6 spots in this 3.0 draft.
Yeah, I had to just stick with my original thought and notion. I'm going to be honest with you here. Bucky played a little part in this. I said to myself, he talked about the fact that all these great wide receivers in the league that are 4 or 5 guys, right? They're around 4 or 5 or even higher than 4 or 5. And my second mock draft, I was a little bit worried. And I said, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. I need a second wide receiver for Malik Neighbors to play off of and for young Jackson Dart to grow with. We know that's worked for other teams to have 2 wide receivers with a young quarterback. Let's give them the most polished wide receiver in this draft and a natural wide receiver 2 in the league in my opinion.
Lance, as we look at your picks 1 through 5 here, and you sort of made the judgment call. Now, I'd love to get your take when it comes to just movement on draft boards in reality. How late in the process do you see something like you executed on, which is move a guy up on your draft board pretty significantly?
Yeah, so for me, I did that draft, just to give you the process. I did that draft right after the combine. And a lot of times you're moved high and low based on the recency bias, right, of combine results. And so, I saw these fast times and I saw Carnell Tate with a 4.57, and I'm like, man, I don't know. That's a little bit slow on this fast track. And then I watched the tapes. I heard what Bucky said last week about Puka Nacua and all these different Devontae Adams. And you know what? That's right. Wide receivers who don't run as fast oftentimes have better deceleration. They can change direction quicker. The bottom line is he wins the ball at the high point. He's got great route technique and structure, and he's someone who just simply doesn't drop the ball. And he's incredibly consistent as a wide receiver. So wide receivers from Ohio State have done pretty well in the past. They pan out, and I think he's going to be another.
Yeah, Lance, I'm with you on that. And we talk about speed not necessarily being the most important quality of playing the position. Because of that, he reminds me a lot of Devontae Adams. When you think about Devontae Adams and his steady growth and climb to be one of the best wide receivers in the game, it's because he has been a polished route runner who understands how to really utilize his speed, his tempo, and his overall athleticism to get open. And when I think about what Carnell Tate does consistently at Ohio State, is the ability to consistently get open, but more importantly, when it's a contested catch, he finds a way to come down with it, much like Devontae Adams has done throughout his career. I just think that Carnell Tate having the opportunity to be a number 2 receiver somewhere like he was at Ohio State probably plays well to his strengths as a playmaker like it did for him at the Buckeyes.
Yeah, kind of an embarrassment of riches that Ohio State program certainly has, sort of littering this first round every single week here on Mock Draft Live. But Lance, I want to continue with some of your picks. We will move to number 6 overall, the Cleveland Browns. A lot of holes to fill. This is a big one physically.
Yeah, here's where I try to think like the team and not like Lance and not like my ratings. You know, you look at what they've done, and they added Titus Howard at right tackle. They've tightened up their offensive line. They made a lot of free agent moves, got their offensive line where they wanted it to be. You could go in some different directions, but from, you know, I think from a standpoint of where the need fit is, and I think they may reach a little bit for need here. There's not a lot of real left tackles in this draft, and they need a left tackle. Monroe Freeman's got upside, he's got length, he's got athleticism. He's a little unpolished, but that's okay because they're not ready to win at a high level right away.
Lance, I think this is 3 weeks in a row with our various mocks Commanders helping out their secondary.
Yeah, and Mansour Delane to me is one of the top 3 or 4 players in this entire draft. I think if he were a little bit taller, he'd be, you know, inside the first 4 picks here. I think this is a great pick for Washington. Washington needs a corner with a little bit more size and some real cornerback 1 type of lockdown. I'm going to get on an island and play you, and that's what Mansour Delane can do. He can get on that island, straight Gilligan style, and it is a wrap. You are not going to get a lot of easy looks against Mansour Delane in man coverage.
Yeah, I talk about being a little bit taller. The one thing is clear, he is definitely a baller. Skilo reference here. Malachi Lemon, hook me up here for the Saints.
Yeah, you know, I think you look at the Saints depth chart, woo, it's Chris Olave and those other guys. And I think you really need to tighten it up. And when you look at wide receivers, I think it falls off after the top 3 or 4 wide receivers. I do think there's a decision to be made here from a draft capital standpoint, when to invest in the wide receiver. And it just made sense to me to go wide receiver. I think it's an easy one. Makai Lemon, to me, is somebody who is going to go win the ball for you. So, you know, I like what I have right there in the top. It gets a little different at 9 and 10, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it totally does. And by the way, just to recap here, picks 6 through 10, we will dive deep on 9 and 10 in just a moment here. But Lemon is certainly one of those electric wide receivers that we saw at USC, another sort of consensus first-round guy, according to all of our experts on NFL.com. But the Kansas City Chiefs looking like they're going to help themselves out. We talk about big-time risers here. It doesn't get much bigger than this for you, Lance.
Yeah, Spencer Fano. So Spencer Fano can play right. He's played right tackle. He's played left tackle at the combine. He took some snaps at center. I think he can play guard center. This is what he really does well. You'll notice his ability to change direction quickly and make adjustments really helps the running game and helps unlock and load up the running game on the second level. I think when you see him in space, he just looks completely different. Looks like a tight end moving out. He's got the same kind of basketball slide and pass protection as well. So I think he's got a lot of potential as a right tackle with a chance to move inside if you need him to.
It's wild. I mean, Lance, you had him 27, moving all the way up to 9. Time for Draft Builders, presented by Lowe's. So do you agree? Does this make sense for him not only to jump, but the fit for KC?
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about the Kansas City Chiefs, they let go of Jawan Taylor. So they need someone on the right side that can solidify the edges. And with what Pat Mahomes is dealing with, torn ACL, you want to make sure that you protect the king. So let's put a fortress in front of him. When I think about Spencer Fano, what he does is he really dominates the edges. He is one of these rare guys that you find, a mauler brawler who's very athletic, nimble feet when he gets in space, can climb, finishes well, and then Lance alluded to the versatility. What you're getting is a blue chip player who can plug and play wherever you need him, but at right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs at this moment, he'd be a terrific fit.
Yeah, and you know, Bucky, Chiefs fans haven't liked the fact that I put a right tackle with them in the last mock, and I did it again here. I really don't care. I mean, as you mentioned, Jawan Taylor was – I mean, I don't care about your feelings. I'm trying to get this mock done and move on to the next one, okay? So this is the deal. You know, Jawan Taylor's gone. That Chiefs offensive line was a mess last year because it was injured all the time. Josh Simmons misses 9 games. Talented, missed for personal reasons and for injury. You had injuries with Jawan Taylor. He missed. Trey Smith missed 5 games due to injury. They couldn't get a rhythm going. And Jawan Taylor, I think, you know, when you look at the cap number, it was just time to go. He was a cap casualty. Now you've got a player in Spencer Fano who I jumped way up the list. And I'll tell you why. He went from having 32-inch arms to almost 33-inch arms at his pro day. And it makes a big difference. And so, you know, I think he can step in and play right tackle for you right away. But if you don't like him there, then you can slide him into guard. But I think he's going to be a good fit. there at right tackle. But the Chiefs have to do something. That just was not good enough. And Patrick Mahomes, in the ACL tear, beat up by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of wild. How many times did we watch Mahomes just sort of scrambling for his life? I mean, we kept using that phrase, the magician that's out there, because by and large, until he wasn't able to protect himself, this is a guy that's been stellar. Does make a whole lot of sense there. By the way, the equation is now set. 1 inch is 18 spots.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what it's worth.
All right.
There's all these different drafts
I like
out
that.
there, but just putting it in context for you. Dallas Cowboys, they got 2 picks to the first round. Take a closer look on who that first pick potentially could be, and what the Rams are going to do. That's still to come here on Mock Draft Live. Welcome back to Mock Draft Live, and don't forget the 2026 NFL Draft presented by Bud Light and powered by Verizon. We got you NFL Network, ABC, ESPN, April 23rd through the 25th. You can also watch Draft Center right here on the NFL channel. I'll be hanging with Buck and Lance. We're going to be going pick by pick. And speaking of Lance, Mock Draft 3.0. At number 11, he had the Dolphins taking Francis Mauigoa, and at number 12, Sonny Styles off the board.
Yeah, I didn't put him at 5, and I just kept looking for a place to plug him in, and the need didn't fit the player, need didn't fit the board, and I ended up, dropping him, and I said, where am I? Oh, perfect. This is perfect. Dallas needs a linebacker. They run it up. We only have to talk about, it goes pick 12. We'll be in immediately. We're on to pick 13 on draft day, boys, when we're in the draft center. So, I mean, when you look at the need is a perfect fit here, but Sonny Styles to me, Bucky, when you talk about what Sonny Styles has a chance to bring to a team, and Leighton Vander Esch, for example, a little bit different type of players, but the same type of unique ability to impact all 3 downs.
Oh, I like that. The Wolfpack, he brought Leighton Vander Esch back. But what I love about Sonny Styles, and I've made this comparison, he reminds me a little bit of Fred Warner and a lot of Kyle Hamilton. You put those guys together, you put him in the middle of this defense, and it's because he's a physical presence on the perimeter. This is a guy that was a safety that converted to being a linebacker. You see explosive downhill movements. He is not afraid of the smoke. He delivers in the hole, in the box. He has it. Getting off blocks, being able to play. They got big bodies in front of him in Dallas, so it will work well for this team. This is a defense that was absolutely terrible after the loss and departure of Micah Parsons. They need someone that can make big plays. Sonny Styles helps them get back to playmaking on that defense.
Yeah, and they'll have an opportunity to take 2 first-round picks with those selections. We'll get to the Cowboys' next pick at 20 coming up in just a moment. By the way, Lance made reference to Styles being 5. That's where you had him last week in your mock. But Lance got another wide receiver, our 3rd off the board.
Yeah, I think wide receiver makes a lot of sense with the Rams. We all talk about the reason why. You've got Devontae Adams there. Next year, you got 3 wide receivers to give firepower to Matthew Stafford as he continues to get a little bit older. The window's open. Let's add firepower. But also, it really does make sense to have the heir apparent for Devontae Adams in the fold, and that's Jordan Hudson. Has some hamstring issues he's trying to get right. He won't run a 40 this entire process. I don't think it's going to matter.
Lance, the wild thing about the Carolina Panthers at 14, free agency, they double down on defense, and you think they continue that theme here?
Well, I had them trading up. I mean, this is not where the Panthers usually pick. I had a 19-14 swap because they need a pass rusher. Now, it really depends on where you see T.J. Parker. That's just kind of some insight into how I'm thinking from a draft standpoint. But I said, if I'm the Panthers, I got to get a draft. I got to get a pass rusher. Akeem Mesidor is one of the most talented rushers in this draft. Let me move up and go get somebody who is plug-and-play ready right now to go get the quarterback.
Meanwhile, at 15, we ran the graphics last week, Lance, about the athletic ability, according to Next Gen Stats, for Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. This guy can just ball.
Yeah, I'm convinced he's going to go higher than people think because somebody's going to surprise you. I looked at, when you look at what Tampa Bay has, they lost Mike Evans, right? They've got Chris Godwin, they've got Emeka Ekbu at so 2 different wide receivers. Cade Otton, he's not bad as a tight end, but you can run a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, and really threaten the seams like Kenyon Sadiq as a wide receiver. So to me, Kenyon may be listed as a tight end, but in that offense, he could be another wide receiver for Tampa.
And by the way, let's just circle back on picks 11 through 15. I know I name-checked Mauigoa out of Miami. Got to spend some time with Mario Cristobal last couple of years. He has raved about the big fella up front, and this is a guy that certainly knows about some really talented offensive linemen. But we continue here with the selections, focusing in on another defensive pick for the Jets.
lodges the football.
Caleb Downs, All-American safety, says, no, you don't. Caleb Downs, picked it clean.
All right, so the Caleb Downs off the board, the safety going 16th, another defensive pick, Lance, for the Jets.
Yeah, and it wouldn't shock me. Jets have a ton of draft capital. Wouldn't shock me if they came up in the draft to go grab Caleb Downs. But as I rolled through the board, Caleb falling in the 16th spot, easy pick here for the Jets. He's a culture changer and leader. He's very good around the line of scrimmage. You can play him as a split safety. You can play him as a big nickel. You can play him down near the line of scrimmage. But he can go out and make plays. And he's really a tempo setter and a tone setter.
No.
Oh, I can hear it right now. I can hear the weights clanging because Caleb Downs, if he is available in the middle of the first round, one, he's absolutely upset because there are players that he's clearly better than. And if the New York Jets are fortunate to get him to go with his buddy Arvell Reese, they would have two of the best players in the draft. And the reason why I like Caleb Downs is the way that he controls the middle of the field. He is terrific in terms of playing off the quarterback's eyes, but he is not afraid to come downhill and deliver the smack on the running back, playing off blocks, being active, being able to control it from sideline to sideline. Man, this is creative player when we talk about playing the position. I know people want the measurables and those things, but he was the best football player on Ohio State. Some would argue that he might be the best player in this draft. To find him in the middle of the first round, the Jets couldn't wait to walk that pick up to the commissioner, hear his name called.
And not to mention there's so many holes on that defensive side for Aaron Glenn to be able to fill it, according to Lance, with a couple defensive players. This could be a coup for Gang Green. That has just been, that fan base, man, thirsty.
You over there taking shots because you're a Giants fan. That's not fair.
Well, look, it's not like we could be boasting off of the last couple of years as well. I know Lance had Cleveland going with an offensive player with their first pick, but I think last time I checked, that guy could use some help on the defensive side. Don't worry, Miles. I'm back here on Mock Draft Live. Mike and Bucky Brooks, Lance Zierlein. We're going through Lance's Mock Draft 3.0. And Lance, when it comes to the Detroit Lions, this feels like one of their picks.
Yeah, Caden Proctor, he can play tackle, he can play left tackle, he can play right tackle. I think he's got a chance to be a Pro Bowl guard if you want to slide him in there, but he's an extremely powerful run blocker. I think keeping his weight down is most important so he can redirect and mirror a little more effectively, keep those inside moves from getting to him. But he's a very, very physical player. I think people are sleeping on the upside of Caden Proctor a little bit because he's a player with rare size and traits, but he's got to kind of break this offensive tackle curse. Following around these Alabama tackles, man. He's got to get it done.
Minnesota on the clock at 18.
Jamal McCoy coming off that ACL tear. We've discussed it plenty of times, but he's a really talented press covered corner. See, what I like here and what I was thinking here with the Vikings is they need a press man corner who can set off those blitz packages from Brian Flores. There's nothing better than a guy that can stay on an island. And I think McCoy has the physical traits and size and play strength to play on an island and help unlock all the exotics in that Brian Flores blitz scheme package.
You know, the crazy thing is, Lance, if I look at your mock draft 2.0 to 3.0, last time, McCoy, you had him going 6th and now 18th. Now, you had some risers, so why a drop here?
Because I'm reckless in mock 2. That's how I do reckless stuff. I take big swings, and it's by design. I take big swings because sometimes that's what happens in the draft, and I want to see how the chips fall. And plus, it's pre-free agency, so teams have certain needs at that time. We had a cornerback need. I took a shot with McCoy, but once free agency was done, it made more sense to bring him back. He didn't play football last year. I think this is more in line with where McCoy is going to go. I try to get it a little more correct on mock number 3, but he is a talented player. But it is 1 year removed from playing football, so it is a concern, and the medicals will matter.
Yeah, look, it's a big concern because the talent is there. When you go back and look at the previous campaign, 2024, he is terrific as a player. But when you're absent, you wonder, can he get back to being at that level? Now, let's look at the tape, and you can see why they're really excited about him. Because on the island, there are not many that can press and play like them. He's feisty and physical at the point of attack. He's going to challenge you and make you earn everything that you get on the perimeter. But he also plays with great eyes, instincts, and awareness. And to play in Brian Flores' defense, you have to have ball skills. He has that. He can turn the ball over. They are going to continue to find a way to take advantage of his skills. It's just about making sure that he grades out well when it comes to the medical situation.
Yeah, sometimes teams are willing to roll the dice, and it looks like, according to Lance, Minnesota could be that team. Now, earlier, Lance, you told people about a swap between Carolina and the Ravens. Going with the big fella, Ioane out of Penn State.
Yeah, I think the Ravens roll the dice here. You got to know what's behind you in terms of needs, and I think the Ravens, if they get a call, can move backwards and still get their hands potentially on the big guard. It's a little bit of a risk, but they've got other needs they could address as well. So Ioane really fits what the Ravens like to do at guard. I think he's a plug-and-play starter immediately on the left side, and I think if he makes it to 19, you run that card up.
Second pick for the Dallas Cowboys in round number 1, and at 20, it's Colton Hood.
Yeah, another Tennessee corner off the board, 18 and 20. We got Tennessee corners off. He's another press man corner, not quite as big as McCoy, but plays just as big, if not bigger, in terms of the way he plays the game. He's very physical in run support. Very physical in run support. Has good instincts, and I thought really stepped his game up from last year to this year in terms of his level of coverage and the consistency of his coverage.
You know what's interesting as I kind of review picks 16 through 20, it's funny, and Lance, all three of us, we kind of talk about team identity and how you want to draft in that vein. And at 17 with Proctor, Ioane at 19, I think about the toughness. I think about the trenches both Detroit and Baltimore likes to play in. So on the offensive line, which one of those rookies, Proctor or Ioane, do you think has a bigger impact?
I'm going to go with Ioane. And the reason why Ioane, I believe, look, he's the best offensive lineman in the draft, if you ask me, regardless of position. When you watch him, man, he is a mauler, brawler, he gets it done. Nasty disposition, which I love. His temperament is terrific, but the talent, the tenacity that he plays with, he finishes people. He is arriving in a bad mood at the point of attack, and he doesn't mind making those pancakes early in the morning, which we see. On the move, we talk about the new generation of offensive guards, being able to get out there, get in space, dance with those second-level defenders. He gets it done consistently, and right there, if we want to put him in motion and come down here and knock somebody out, he has that. To me, he's exactly what you're looking for at the position, and I think he could be a top 10 player when we go back and look at his draft in a few years. Wow. He's that good.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tough for me, Bucky, to figure out if I wanted to put Proctor or Ioane there at 17 with the Lions, because they both fit the mold of the physicality that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and the Lions like to have. But for me, Proctor, the reason I went Proctor ahead of Ioane is because I think he can play tackle or guard. I think the floor is higher on Ioane. I think the ceiling may be a little bit higher for Caden Proctor if he can play to his potential. I think you are going to have an opening at right tackle, and that they'll slide, obviously, they'll slide Penei Sewell over to the left side. If that's the case, then you can plug him up on the right side. But if you want to start him at left guard for the first year, you could also do something like that, because I do think Proctor can fit the guard position. I think he has enough bend in his hips, and he's definitely a drive blocking machine.
Lance, we continue here, 21st overall with some of your selections. Pittsburgh with the 4th wide receiver taken.
Yeah, this was I kind of surprised myself with this one. I think he fits what Pittsburgh will like. You have a couple different types of wide receivers that are definitely outside wide receivers. DK Metcalf has a limited route tree. You got Michael Pittman, who's not going to really stretch the field much for you. Omar Cooper's kind of unique because he's built like Deebo Samuel, runs like him with the ball in his hands, big, thick lower trunk, but can really run and stretch the field if he needs to. So kind of unique that he can stretch the field from the slot, but also give you some quick game, gadget type throw and run type offensive opportunities as well.
Well, I think there's, I don't want to say consensus because there's not, but the thought is, according to a lot of our experts on NFL.com, Bucky, you included, you like wide receiver, but Lance and CD going with Cooper for what it's worth. Jeremiah thinking offensive tackle Blake Miller, but once again, it does feel like the selection there would fit a need. Meanwhile, at 22, Lance, the Chargers going Caleb Banks.
Yeah, I just went aggressive here. I know that broken foot popped up at the combine on Caleb Banks, and he does have some injury issues. And look, I could see him falling out of the first round. But from a talent standpoint, from a need standpoint of the Chargers, and an upside standpoint, this is a rare defensive tackle from a size, rush, and dominant standpoint. They may be willing to take that shot.
Philadelphia at 23. This also kind of feels like a Philly pick.
Yeah, it really does. 35-inch arms for Blake Miller. He started over 50 games in college. Extremely athletic. I mean, feels like I just felt like I was just drafting another Lane Johnson, really. I think Lane has a little higher upside than Blake Miller, but Blake Miller is ready to roll, and that's a Philadelphia team that doesn't want to take a big step back from an experience standpoint. So Blake Miller makes sense right there at right tackle because he fits the mold of what they're looking for too.
Meanwhile, Lance, you know the Cleveland Browns have a lot of holes to fill on that roster. TJ Parker would be a nice addition to help out Myles Garrett.
So let me just tell you right now, I don't think Myles Garrett will be in a Browns uniform by the beginning of 2027. I think there's a chance.
Whoa, here we go.
I think he gets traded potentially this year. TJ Parker, for me, was an acknowledgement of, I believe that they could be looking for another rush in, whether it's this year or next year. Why not take the big, bruising, bull-rushing TJ Parker, who has one of the deadliest long-arm pass rushes that you're going to find in this entire draft. But I think the Myles Garrett potential trade could have a big impact on this entire draft if it goes down.
You know, here's why I love working Buck with Lance. I mean, last week we were talking about Mendoza. He brings up Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, the comps, at least for Fernando Mendoza. He's got a trade in mock draft 3.0 with Carolina and Baltimore. And then out of nowhere, hey, I just want to let you know, Myles Garrett, not long for Cleveland.
Yeah, not long. Just buried the lead. That should be something we had in the A block.
Time for Sharp Picks presented by Gillette. So he told us why he likes Parker here. What does the tape tell you?
Oh, look, TJ Parker is someone super talented coming off the edge, and what you love about him is his ability to turn speed into power. He can play like a bit of a bull in a china shop at times, but he also has the athleticism to be nimble off the edge. Rugged pass rusher. When you look back, 2024, which was the better tape, you saw this guy. He was dynamic, had violent hands, real quick in terms of being able to get off and release, has the ability to play with force or with finesse, as you see right there as the interior rusher. A lot of versatility, and if you're a team like the Browns that's looking for someone to complement maybe Myles Garrett if he's still there, he's a perfect complement on the backside. More Robin than Batman.
I like how you said if he's still there. So you're leaning into where Lance is going. I like this.
Lance is putting it out there. I want to make sure I support him.
Well, and I got to say, like, for me, TJ Parker, I've got him in my own rankings I've got him in the second round. But I could see teams really liking him because he is a roughneck. He's very rugged. He's got that long arm rush. But I do want to say, Bucky alluded to last year. He had tremendous production in 2024. And when you watch a tape this year, it's like team figured out he's going to bull rush us. We're going to get set for the bull rush. So this is why you got to throw some more tools in that bag. You got to expand the bag, because if you're too predictable in the NFL, they're going to take that rush move away from you. So he's got to expand that bag, I think, to really, to be a productive rusher like he was in 2024 for Clemson.
Yeah, I think about that division too, and the two selections that Lance thinks that they're going to make, one on the offensive line, one on the defensive line. This makes a whole lot of sense for that franchise. Meanwhile, the Houston Texans, a little bit of a roller coaster season, but this defense, man, absolutely balled. We'll show you who Lance thinks they might be acquiring in round number 1 of this year's draft. Back here on Mock Draft Live, along with Bucky Brooks, Mike Yam with you, and Lance Zierlein. We're going through Lance's Mock Draft 3.0, and the Chicago Bears, Lance at 25, are on the clock.
I mean, this is a team that needs a safety, and Tineman can play in the post up top. He can rotate down for you. You know what he is? He's an explosive athlete with very good instincts and ball skills. He allows you to really change the picture after the snap. So if Dennis Allen wants to get a little froggy with that defense, what he can do is, Dylan's one of those guys that you can line up in one spot and rotate him after the snap to another spot. He has that kind of speed and that kind of field awareness and instincts.
Meanwhile, we got another trade, Lance. You think the Cardinals moving back into this first round, trading with the Buffalo Bills and taking Max Ihanachor, the offensive tackle out of ASU?
Look, we know they need a right tackle. I thought 3 was a little too early. However, the tackles, as anyone will tell you who's been in that league, the tackles thin out quickly after the first round. So if you want to get your hands on a talented right tackle, a guy with some real upside, Ihanachor is that guy. I know a lot of people have been trading up to get their hands on Ty Simpson, but what about getting your hands on a longtime starter at right tackle? That's what I did for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. By the way, this is a guy, Lance, that you didn't even have in the first round of your last mock draft, which was 2.0. I couldn't help but notice on social media there's these moments at the pro days. We always try to read into like who's showing up, which scouts are going, which coaches, which general managers, and yet when you see a video like this, I don't know what to make of it other than Mike Vrabel maybe missing playing a little bit.
Yeah, look, I think this is critical because sometimes when you're a head coach, you want to feel the type of player that you're bringing in. And because he was such a decorated player, because he knows the position as a pass rusher, being able to really test Max Hanachour, I think this is really good for him if he's available for the Patriots at 31.
Yeah, you know, my dad was a longtime NFL offensive line coach. He used to love to do this when he would go work guys out of pro days because he wanted to check their core strength. So he'd push, he'd pull, he'd yank him around in different directions because you could feel whether or not they had core strength. You don't get that from bag drills. You don't get that at the combine. And sometimes you don't even get it enough depending on the competition and on tape.
Now, meanwhile, looking at the bottom half there, those tree trunks.
Oh, yeah, he's put together. Well put together.
Yeah, he's not skipping leg day here. Niners making some moves. We know Mike Evans is there, but you think they double down at the wide receiver spot?
Yeah, I think, you know, Mike Evans, when you think about it, Mike Evans, I don't know how long Mike will be there. They still need another wide receiver for that offense. And this guy is the best separator in the entire draft. I know his hands could use a little bit of work, but he gets open like nobody else in this draft. He's a lot of fun to watch. He makes explosive plays. And I really like what he would offer as a play right now option and a quick opener for the Brock Purdy in that offense.
Meanwhile, the Houston Texans going with the linebacker out of Texas and Anthony Hill.
So Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'oTo'o, the two linebackers, did a great job last year. Both of them are going to be free agents after next year. I think Anthony Hill, who is fast, the 4.5, 140, can cover the field, is always in the right place, the right time, terrific tackler, and he's got some real rush off the edge as well. I think he could come in and compete for a starting job immediately for To'oTo'o's job, and will, and then maybe even take over for the Mike the next year. So I think he fits that swarm defense immediately.
Meanwhile, you take a look at picks 25 through 28, that Niners selection, that if you keep the tabs at home, fifth wide receiver off the board. Not that I'm cheating, but I'm looking ahead a little bit. We got another one that is looming, which we'll get to in just a moment here. But Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas, I know you obviously keep some close eyes on that Longhorns program here. What's the tape tell you about what he can do on Sundays?
Man, fantastic player, and he's fantastic because he's that blend of player that we want to see an off-ball linebacker, being able to come off the edge, sideline to sideline, while also give you that pass rush ability. 17 sacks in his career, so this is not someone that is just a one-dimensional player, hit, run, and cover. He can do all those things. And in that defense, I hate to see it with the Texans. I'd add another playmaker like this to that swarm mentality that they have on that defensive side of the ball. He fits. DeMeco Ryans has a good track record of developing linebackers. Yeah. It could be scary what Anthony Hill could develop into down in H-Town.
Oh, Bucky, you love to see it. One of the things that the Houston Texans that has been missing a little bit is coverage out of the linebacker, and this is something Anthony Hill can do. He gives them a faster player, a more explosive athlete, and yes, he can rush as well. DeMeco Ryans will not take just any player. You got to have a certain type of mentality. He calls it swarm. He looks for a very particular type of player, and I think Anthony Hill fits that. And when you get on that field with Will Anderson, Jalen Petrie, Stingley's become more of a dog, Daniil Hunter, I mean, we all saw it last year. Anthony Hill just helps you keep that train moving at one of the linebacker spots, and I think he'd be a great pickup here for a team that really, frankly, doesn't have a lot of glaring needs in the first year.
By the way, Lance just name-checked a bunch of those dudes on the defensive side. That's the reason why those rankings are sitting exactly where they are. It makes a whole lot of sense when you put it in context there. I mentioned a fifth wide receiver off the board. Kansas City, they got their guy.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kansas City needs another wide receiver. They need to help Pat out. We already grabbed him an offensive lineman previously. So this time I'm going to grab a big wide receiver. He's an X that can go win the ball. He's not the fastest wide receiver. He's not going to run a 40 time. I don't really care because on tape he goes and wins the football. And I think he just makes a lot of sense as a player who's a ball winner, who is very polished right now at this stage of his career. I think it makes sense for what Pat Mahomes needs right now.
Well, you can take a closer look. It's trying to fill a void here since Tyreek has been, and God, it feels like a century ago. We were talking about Tyreek Hill rocking that uniform, but I don't know if they've ever really truly solved for that explosiveness here. When you look at some of these pass catchers, health obviously is going to be a major component to what this team wants to do moving forward around Patrick Mahomes. Meanwhile, we continue with some of these draft picks here. Miami Dolphins, Lance at 30.
Yeah, Dolphins need some help on the back end. I mean, they need help all over the defense. So I decided to give them a player who has range defensively. He can step down into the box. He can play on the back end if you need him to. I think he's best when he's playing forward and impacting you with the physicality, the tone setting, and the ability to come up and play. He can take the ball away. We saw that. But he can also play some of these pass-catching wide tight ends as well. So kind of gives you a unique option at safety.
Meanwhile, the New England Patriots at 31, we showed the video of Mike Vrabel kind of dealing and out on that football field with an offensive tackle. Just not the one, Lance, that you think they might draft.
Well, look, you can say what you want about Will Campbell, a tackle, and you're fine with it, and maybe you are. But I think Caleb Lomu gives you right now a player who can swing between left and right behind Morgan Moses and Will Campbell. He needs a year of polish, and he needs a little bit of extra football, I think, right now. But when it's all said and done next year, he can plug in at right tackle, he can plug in at left tackle, he can swing Will Campbell to the right tackle spot, he can swing him inside the guard. I think Lomu makes sense for him now and in the future.
2 running backs, Lance, in the first round. Both of them used to rock that Notre Dame uniform.
One of my favorite picks here that I made for myself, Jadarian Price. Look, they need running back. We know that's a need. But what I love is taking a running back of Jadarian Price's talent, putting him in the first round. Here's why. I know the analytics guys get a little upset about it, but for me, I want to have 5 years for Jadarian Price. Then I want to add an extra year of club control with that franchise tag. 6 years for a really good running back is a very good contract in my estimation. And he's somebody that to me is maybe the most talented pure running back in the draft. Not as explosive as his teammate. This guy really runs the football well. And after Price goes down a little bit at running back.
Yeah, meanwhile, some business decisions that Lance is making there. I like the fact that he's name-checking Price in this first round, but he also talked about Love. What's different about what they do on the field?
Well, one is the total package, and that is Jeremiah Love. He's a total package. Look, he does everything. But in Price, you have someone who is big, physical, understands how to take that rugged game, and it translates into big plays. He can get downhill, he runs through contact, has a great way of finishing, always falling forward. And then in the kick game, when you have an opportunity to see, you see these same moves, the same wiggle that he's displaying, he does it with the ball in his hands. 2 kickoff return touchdowns. As we're looking for the versatility, this is an underrated part of his game because he didn't get many opportunities. He's an RB1. It is rare for a team to have 2 first-round running backs in the backfield, but the Fighting Irish certainly do so when you talk about Price and Love coming off the board in round 1.
Yeah, it feels like just a great pick also from a Seahawks perspective. You know, as much as Lance and Bucky, when they do these mock drafts, they tell you like, hey, this is exactly how it's going to play out. The reality is there's probably going to be some tweaks here and there when we hit real.
Who said that? Where'd you get that from? Did someone buzz in?
Come on, man. I'm just saying, like, but there's one thing that's abundantly clear. The consensus at 1 with Fernando Mendoza. What does it mean for some other draft picks that could make some noise, maybe even in the second round? We'll examine some of those names coming up next.
He handed it off to Love, who stays on his feet. Love is in the end zone.
In the end zone, and it's intercepted. Caleb Downs.
2nd and 7, that is batted down. It's David Bailey again.
What a season for this kid.
What a ball player, folks, you're looking at right now. You are looking at a star.
Tell me this is not NFL stuff right here.
Getting the football to Sadiq. Boom. He's an absolute animal.
Fires. Caught. Touchdown.
That's a little nuance, Gus. I'm telling you, that's an NFL nuance right there.
We don't know what it is, but we know it when we see it.
He does have that it factor, and there's a reason why actually all of our experts on NFL.com have Fernando Mendoza going number 1 overall to the Raiders. 2026 NFL Draft presented by Bud Light, powered by Verizon. Got you covered. NFL Network, ABC, ESPN, April 23rd through the 25th, and the three of us will be hanging out right here on Draft Center going through all those picks. Lance, just so you know, Buck said he was treating the entire staff on day 3. The full spread, the whole thing. So at some point we'll be able to kind of weasel our way out of the
I thought it was day 4. I got day 4. I said I'm picking up for day 4.
He's all over it. By the way, I know we go through these first round mock drafts, a lot of stars that are out there. The reality is you could still have a Hall of Fame type career and not be taken in the first round. So I start thinking about offense, defense, second round guys that could have a huge impact. Let's start on the offensive side. Lance, you had 6 wide receivers taken in the first round. Do you think there's a second round guy that could also be a significant playmaker in Hurst?
Oh, yeah, Ted Hurst. I mean, Ted Hurst from Georgia State. A lot of production for Ted Hurst. He actually got bigger at the combine. Doesn't usually happen. He was 6'4", 206 at the combine, bigger than what he was measured that they had him listed at Georgia State. He is a straight Z with great speed down the field. He's low 4.4s, but what kind of stands out with Ted Hurst is despite being a long-legged, kind of linear wide receiver, he's got some really nice footwork and loose hips to run a more robust route tree. So I think the best is yet to come for Ted Hurst. From the teams I've talked to, this is one of the guys that they buzz the most about. I'm willing to lock in that he's a second rounder here and someone that a few teams – he's got 9 30-day visits right now.
Oh, okay, I like the locks.
Oh.
I like locking it in. I'm going to lock one in for you. How about Joe Royer from Cincinnati, transferred from Ohio State? He is a natural H-back, great hands, does a great job of being able to put the ball in the paint. You know who also played at Cincinnati? That would be one Travis Kelce before he got linked into that whole thing with the Swifties. But now, Joe Royer, big-time playmaker, catch the ball over the middle, average over 14 yards per catch. He is going to be a chain mover at the next level. One of my sleepers that's going to go off the board in day 2.
You better watch what you say. It sounds like he got roped into it. He's the one that did the asking. So I just
strategic.
Very
strategic.
Well, look, I mean, the Swifties, there's definitely a huge fan base that's there, no question. What about on the defensive side? I think there's a safety who, off air, Lance, you keep kind of name checking.
Yeah, Jalen Kilgore. So he is a big nickel at South Carolina that really I think we're going to see him in a different position potentially. He can play those Travis Kelce's, right? He's used to pressing and playing big tight ends, big wide receivers in the slot. He can still do that. But I think he's going to end up being more of a robber or even just a pure down safety who's going to be wrecking people. He's got real stopping power, real size, can impact the run, and I think has the ability to match up with those tough caliber wide receiver tight ends out there in the league.
Yeah, he's a really good player. I'm going to give you another good player from Michigan, Derek Moore, the pass rushing specialist. I shouldn't even call him a pass rushing specialist. He's a bull rush extraordinaire, meaning he's going to come at you with power all day. What I love about his game is the steady progress and consistency that he's made throughout his career. Finished last season with 10 sacks. Always is in the paint, meaning around the quarterback's legs. I like it. I think somebody else is going to value him on day 2.
Typically what you guys do on NFL.com, you give a guy a grade. The grade for Lance's mock, Buck?
I mean, it was okay. I mean, look, I'm be lean. I'm make sure that Lance passes. He's able to go on and get his grade. So we'll give him a B. I mean, we'll give him a B. We'll give him a good grade for that. It's fine.
It's well above
best work
average.
yet to come.
Lance, you're the best.